Chapter 1, Part 3. Mary was so cute and sweet and this is from Cody. Mary was so cute and sweet when I met her that I had a hard time suppressing my hopeless romantic nature. She had a remarkable purity about her. I had a sneaking suspicion that we were soulmates, but because of the promise I had made to myself, I rejected this notion. I was determined to be Mary's friend until I knew her better and could confirm my suspicion that our desires were intertwined. I was glad that Mary and I kept finding ourselves spending more and more time together. I was excited to be associating with members of Mary's faith. They had an intensity about religion that I found inspiring. Perhaps because their religion was somewhat countercultural and at odds with certain conventional doctrines, they took no aspect of their belief for granted. They examined their convictions carefully and enthusiastically. The members of this group were fully committed to their ideologies and discussed them at length, both debating and confirming the tenets of their religion. Every day I spent with this group seemed to turn into an impromptu revival with profound discussions of spirituality and religion that I'd been missing in the LDS church. Even though I loved my new group of friends and their congregation, I had yet determined whether I should join the faith. Nevertheless, I kept surrounding myself with people from my parents' new church. A few weeks after I told Mary that I wasn't open to dating, I invited her up to my parents' ranch in Wyoming for Thanksgiving. Mary and I were never far from each other's side during that trip. Naturally, people began to ask if we were dating. It was pretty clear that we liked each other a whole lot. I didn't have to ask her how she felt about dating. It was pretty clear we liked each other a whole lot, more than just friends. I often caught Mary making eyes at me. I didn't have to ask her how she felt about me. It was written all over her face. I couldn't stop winking back at her from time to time. It was no longer possible for me to deny that I had strong feelings for Mary. She was sweet, innocent, and a wonderful listener. She validated my existence. We became inseparable. At the same time, I thought this wasn't fair to Mary or me. I didn't want to lead her on, but I didn't want to make a mistake either. Thanksgiving weekend ended, and I planned to stay with my parents for a few days, and Mary drove back to Utah with some of our friends. This was the first time in weeks we had been separated for so long. I thought about her constantly while we were apart. The house was finally quiet, which was remarkable in my large family. All the guests had returned home, and my younger siblings were in bed. And I was sitting at my mom's kitchen table eating ice cream with a fork. The kitchen was dark, but light from the living room spilled onto the floor. Again, I thought it wasn't fair to either of us to pretend we were just friends. We were obviously much more than that. I didn't want to drag this out and hurt Mary or myself in the process. I needed God's answer to questions. Should I join the church I was investigating, and should Mary and I get married? After all, I couldn't marry her without converting, but I wanted to convert because of a spiritual conviction and not because of my love for Mary. I finished my bowl of ice cream and I stayed fast and prayed until I knew with deep conviction which path I should follow. I went to the bunkhouse on my parents' property, which is where I slept. I got into bed and began my fast. After 2 days of fasting, I decided to drive back to Utah. Mary's parents had invited me to stay in a guest room at their house. I hadn't eaten since Mary left Wyoming, and I was shocked how great I felt. I was strong and energetic through my fast. I felt as if this remarkable strength that persisted without food or water was part of my answer. When I got to the guest bedroom, I was overcome with an overwhelming feeling of peace greater than any other I'd experienced before. That feeling, that remarkable sense of tranquility and calm was exactly what I had been searching for. I had made my decision and I was at peace with it. That very day, I told Mary's dad I had decided to join his faith. He made the arrangements quickly. The next weekend, I was baptized. I committed myself to the principle of celestial plural marriage and to God the Almighty. Somehow, in the middle of all of this, I remembered to ask Mary's father for permission to court his daughter. I guess my conversion really cast me in a favorable light because he granted it immediately. After the baptism, Mary and I went to Temple Square outside the LDS Temple in Salt Lake City to meet up with friends. I had my answer about my faith and about Mary. I knew that I wanted to marry her, and I just had a feeling she would say yes if I asked. But as usual, I was moving too quickly and following my romantic impulses. We hadn't even started courting, but I was already kneeling at the altar. That night in Temple Square, I was wearing an old trench coat for my mission. I turned to Mary and I said, "Your hands are cold." Then I took one of them in mine and put our hands into the pocket of my coat. I didn't want to attract anyone's notice, but I wanted to hold her hand. I had finally become comfortable with our romance because now I knew this was the woman I was going to marry. And now we're back to Mary. Even though Cody had told me he didn't want to date anyone, I still hoped that he would change his mind. When he finally approached my father about wanting to court me, I was thrilled. Cody and I had a wonderful courtship. The fact we had spent so much time as friends and knew each other so well allowed us to develop a sweet, romantic relationship based on friendship and mutual respect. Cody and I decided to spend Christmas with his family at their ranch in Wyoming. It had been 3 years since he had spent Christmas there, and I was looking forward to getting to know his family a little bit better, and we had been courting for 8 months. But we had been hanging out for longer than that. It was impossible for us to hide the depth of our feelings for each other. Everyone knew we were in love. At dinner a few days before Christmas Eve, his family kept nagging us about our relationship. They all wanted to know, "When are you guys going to get married?" They asked me over and over again. Finally, I shot back, "Well, he hasn't even asked me yet." More to teach Cody than anything else, maybe to light a little fire under him. That night after dinner, we were sitting in the bunkhouse. Cody asked in a nervous but cute way, "I'm thinking maybe we ought to get married, if you want to." It was an awkward moment, not all the romantic proposal girls dream of. Although I did want to marry him, I was hoping for a real proposal. There was something else holding me back. I wanted to take some time for introspection to know from God if this was the right choice for me. During this time, I was taking to check my feelings and validate them with God. Cody and I went ring shopping. We found a ring we both really liked, but kept looking just to be sure. Cody knew this was the ring for us, though. So while I thought we were still shopping, he secretly had his sister buy it for him.